the virtual floor is yours.
So it should. So it works now, right?
Yep,
Okay,
it
perfect.
works.
Okay, perfect. So, I'm Debbie. Hi, everyone. I'm from Hong Kong, and very nice to be present in Doria's class today. Um, I am a social entrepreneur. I have a background in marketing and communications, and I also do travel and arts right now. So today it will just be light that I'll be sharing a bit of my life journey, how I evolved, and also how the international experience like shaped me in who I am and what I do now. So then, pretty much my past 10 plus years in a glance, or maybe 20. So I actually started when I was in secondary school. I I dreamt to become a pilot, and so I picked School of Engineering for university, knowing that there's no aviation course in Hong Kong. And my mom was saying like it would be too expensive to send me abroad to study aviation. So I ended up choosing engineering in Hong Kong. And then through university, I joined ISAC. That's what the organization that Doria shared about just now. It's a global student organization where we get to go to different like countries, meetings, university students from other parts of the world, and also doing a lot of like social impact projects and exchanges, and you get to work and live a bit abroad, get yourself immersed in another culture, which is like in certain aspect it will certainly be different from where you grow up from. And that's actually that experience like I think it planted seeds in me where like I have this passion for uh intercultural learning and also like social impacts, which I will share a bit later. And my life in a glance so far is like later on that I joined a global PR firm called Weber Shandwick. And then I started to do my own things. I started Social Alliance, which is a social impact PR and marketing company in Hong Kong. And then some years later, I founded another business, social business called Living Experience, where I do authentic cultural travel experiences. And recent years, I also launched like a Tibetan Cloisonne art studio. So that's pretty much in a glance. Then, so the first part, I think that's a part that shaped me when I was still in university. It has the largest impact on me, I think, since then till now. With Isaac, is a global student organization. It brought me to quite a number of countries at that time. Malaysia was definitely one of them and had a big impact on me up till now. And also been to India, Oman, Iceland, I think Sweden, Netherlands, and Philippines. I the first time I think I boarded a plane was when I was 19 to India through Isaac. Went to a Asia Pacific conference where I met university students from 20 other Asia Pacific countries, and we were there for our study conference for 1 week. And I think at that time, being so young, apart from being really exciting to travel and then meet new friends and be a new country and all this excitement, I think like it also started to get me reflect and think about like how grateful we are. Uh, give one example is like one of the conversations that still has an impact on me until now. I remember it was one of the lunch meal times, and I was just chatting with like other university friends. Like we were talking about like, hey, when is your summer holidays? Like, what will you do for holidays? We will be traveling, and then oh, my holiday starts in June, and then someone says like, oh, our holiday starts in July. We were just chatting like that, and then like I think I was like talking with some Japanese and Korean students at that time, and then it came to like and then I came to a student from Sri Lanka, and I was like just thought like I would just casual chat like that, and turns out the student told me that, oh, we don't really have like regular like school holidays like that. It's more like when there is no conflict, then when there is no conflict we go to school, and when there's conflict then there's school suspension. That's kind of like a school holiday. And I did not know what to say as a very naive student at that time, because I never thought that like when we did not enjoy going to school, we did not really enjoy attending classes. Sometimes we fall asleep or we play on our mobile phones, and then you realize like someone is like going to school may not is it's not like what you see on TV saying like, oh, some poor children, they can't go to school. It's actually just another university student sitting right next to you telling you that when there's no conflict, we can go to school. But when there's conflict in the neighborhood, then we can't. Then that's like holiday. Like that's something that it still has a big impact on me, because like from coming from Hong Kong, never would imagine like how life would be if you live in a country that constant have conflicts. And another thing that hit me at that time in India was that when we were inside a conference with all the university students, like everyone were having laptops, and you didn't really feel so much of like, oh, is it like it's a much less developed country. But when you go out on the streets, when you see you can really see the rich and poor gap. When I still remember there were like beggars. Of course, there were always beggars on the streets, and there were beggars were pulling my hair. And those are moments that you realize like poverty is not that far from us. Again, I think it's something that when you get to experience it by yourself, that it is not something that you only see on TV and documentary. It's actually something in real life. And there are people who are actually living in circumstances like that, not as fortunate as us. So I think these are some moments that started to plant seeds of a crave for social impact, doing something social good inside me. I think it started there. So that was India. And then like I went on a lot of other conferences in through Isaac, and another experience was to Malaysia. At that time, Doria was also Isaac member in Malaysia, and she was actually the person who brought me to Johor Bahru, who brought me to this home for disabilities in JB. It was like a summer break for me, my first year university, and to do like volunteer work for 2 months at a home for disabilities. And it actually like I actually did some like social service in Hong Kong back then, to like visiting to elderly homes or care homes. I thought like, okay, it's just something that you plan some activities or do something with the people there. Uh, but when I reached, it actually like there were also other parts that actually like got me into like reflection. One is in that home for disabilities, they actually have all kinds of I don't know how is it now, but back then they had like all kinds of disabled people there, no matter they are blind or deaf or on a wheelchair or having like mental challenge, and different age from kids to like mid-age or even to like elder ones. They are all in the same care home. And it's actually something that was like surprise for me, because I like being in Hong Kong, I'm used to having like different service unit for different types of disabilities. Um, and this is one thing. Then like when we plan activities, then we had to think about like if you are like being like physically challenged, like you're on a wheelchair, or if you're like mentally challenged, that you have like inter like in intelligence like difference, like they will enjoy different activities. And we're thinking another thing is like, because it was like a home for disabilities, so people, these disabled people, they actually live there. And what we realized is like the reason why we were brought there is to socialize and interact with them, because a lot of times why they live there is maybe their family is not like they don't have a family, but maybe their family is too busy, um, don't have time to take care of for them, or like maybe like it's like too much effort to care for them, since they have different types of disabilities, to care for them at home. And so they are being placed to live in the home for disabilities, where they actually couldn't go out. So they would be in the home for the whole day, from morning, do some morning exercise, breakfast, have a break, maybe have some activities, have lunch, and then nap time or do some activities, and then tea time. And then sometimes there's a physiotherapist would do some exercises with them, and then dinner time, and then shower time, and then bed time. Like their every day was just like that. And that actually like really made me thinking like they are disabled, but they also deserve to have a life that we can enjoy. I mean, we can enjoy all this fun and going out and going to the movies and the cinemas and go to the restaurants and all this, like, and they are kind of like stuck inside either like some their friends or family to come visit them, or like take them home for holidays, or otherwise they are just in this routine at the home like day to day. So that's how like I realized like why the reason why they brought us like students for the summer was to socialize with them. I mean, it's always nice to have like make new friends, interactions, learn new things. And I think that was like really like major thing about having this like internship exchange. Although like it was really for us, for me as a year one student, was a bit like, okay, this was kind of like boring, like everyday routine. How you can make it less boring for me and also for the residents there, like, so what kind of things should we do that would be beneficial? I mean, for me, it's only 2 months here. I have some fun. It's Malaysia, it's a new country for me, it's fun anyways. But for them, it's like how you can, instead of saying help them, as in I'm not professional caretaker, I can't really help them in like professionally, but how we can help them as in make their life more meaningful. So and this part I think Doria especially briefed me to share about. I met So there were different residents at the home, and of course there are some that we bond more, and then some we bond less. Especially I think when they are like intellectually challenged, it's a bit hard to engage with them, especially like maybe they talk about the same thing over and over again. But those who are like having a normal IQ, then we can actually like they are only being physically challenged. We can actually be friends. So there was this kid that when I met him, he was 12 in 2007, and I was a first year university student, and he was a kid on wheelchair, and it actually really made me think about because like his IQ was normal, and the only thing is like he was born with like cerebral palsy, so he's physically challenged, couldn't walk and couldn't stand on his feet. And I was really thinking what would be his life if he just stay at the home for disability for the rest of his life. I mean, it's kind of boring and pathetic, right? I mean, like every kid would like to go out and have fun, but because he's being physically challenged, he would be stuck in the home. Somehow we managed to stay in touch, and then like he has this passion for computer games, which I think most kids and probably a lot of you also have a passion for mobile games and computer games. So he managed to have enjoy his fun time playing games, and also with his passion for games, he started to learn a bit like computer after finishing his secondary school. I think like his compulsory education, and then like he got to leave the home, and then like he find like a IT job in KL. And here later on is like you can see that um he was also like his coach. I think like he had a chance to try this boccia ball game, and the coach found potential in him, and then like he was really practicing and training for it for some years, and it was quite still I think life was difficult, as in being disabled. Even if you get an IT job, you're not very well paid, and then just training for the Paralympic Games. I mean, like before you can even join the Paralympic, you're pretty much just training as an athlete. Then like also like not like super well like being paid. So it was really like living life at a very minimal. And until 2019, 2020, he gained the qualification to join the Paralympics for the Boccia Games. And then it all got like very excited because like I think he's the first Paralympic athlete in this category that Malaysia has a national representative for this game. And then like even more exciting is like he actually won a silver medal in the Tokyo Paralympics. And then life shifted. He was someone that I always feel like he's like little brother to me, that because ever since meeting him at the disabled home, I just feel like this boy like is smart, and then this boy has all these like aspiration for life. The only thing, he's only physically challenged on a wheelchair, but I mean he's normal and smart in everything else. But because being physically challenged, he doesn't have all these opportunities and chances like the rest of us. So I was really always feeling a bit like sad, and also like I'm not like super rich, I can't just help him in everything. Like there's something that was always at the back of my mind that I wanted to support. And then to seeing him in 2019 when I visited was still in this like really surviving state, I would say, like life surviving, like training for the sport and also doing a bit like IT on the side and living life in a minimal until winning the Paralympics when I visited again this year, which is few months ago, where I also met Doria. It's like life changing, winning one medal and completely life changed. And one thing is life conditions definitely improved, as in he can have he has this like bonus money that he can have a better life condition now. Another thing is now we can talk about dreams. Now we have the luxury to talk about what do you want in life, because life is no longer just surviving on bread and butter anymore. Like there is a life to look forward to, something that he can try to achieve. And I was just sharing with Doria the other day when I visited that I feel like all this is like a social impact that she brought me into this scene as well, because it was 2007 that she took me, this Hong Kong student, to Malaysia. Sorry, bit of
I wish I could give you a hug now.
dry throat. No, just dry throat. I'm not trying to cry. So and then like having this little disabled friend until like he's not so little anymore. You can see like kind of really see the impact of involvement of his life, and also like involvement of a friendship that's been developed for all these like 10 plus years. I think that's something amazing, because like when you travel, you're not only there to eating and shopping and enjoying like your like touristy stuff, but you actually make connections, interactions, friendships with the local people there that you can call family. So I think like this is the part that I think international experience is so important for me. So coming back to this slide is like that's a story from India. But that's a story that I had in Malaysia, and there are a lot more stories like that. That through Isaac, when I had the chance to interact, to actually have like deep like intellectual exchanges with students or people there in other countries, then you actually like get to then you get immersed in another culture, and you actually have to adapt yourself in another culture. That's how like all these growth and changes will happen in yourself. Another place that I stayed for 2 months was like Iceland. I stayed there for like another Isaac like opportunity, and I had chance to work with a lot of like Icelandic students for those 2 months. And they used to call me, and I think I heard from Doria that there are a lot of Chinese students here, then you will all know these Icelandic students. They used to call me that crazy Chinese student who is still working at like 2 a.m. when every other students were just partying, drinking, dancing, and I'm still like working on my laptop, and they're like, why are you still working? You should just drink and play. And they were like, oh, this crazy Chinese girl is like just too hardworking. And I guess like I can see a lot of Chinese names in this class that you can relate. I mean, for us, it's just like there are so many stuff I still haven't done, and I need to finish everything. And like I have a session to deliver the next morning at 8 a.m. Then of course I need to finish it. So I think a lot of things like so different. In Iceland, there was another incident that I remember is like I went in winter time where they have less daylight, a lot of dark days, like sunrise around 10 a.m. and sunset around 3 p.m. So when you wake up at 8 a.m. and you have to go to the office, that's like complete darkness, as if you're going out at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., like complete darkness. You have to go out already and you start working at complete darkness. And then by around 10 a.m., the sunrise. And just when you had lunch and then you were like about to do some more work and then sunsetting at 3 p.m. So they have really like short daylight during winter time. And other than that, there's still a lot of like cloudy, rainy, snowing days. So you don't really see the blue sky so often. And it was quite interesting. Also, it's like whenever there is like a sunshine, no matter what appointments we have during the day, that we have like scheduled meetings or appointments, and then they will be like, it's a great weather day. We will just cancel the meetings and go and enjoy the sunshine. That's very different. Malaysia, I don't think you have that because you are always hot and yeah, you always have like nice weather. Although you also get rainy days, but at least like we get daylight. That kind of thing, it really strikes you to think about their lifestyle of how they treasure quality of life. Um, how they talk about like work-life balance, quality of life, and versus us, Asian culture or Chinese culture, we have very different, I think, approach to life. Another thing, I think in Iceland, it has a lot of like intellectual bombardments for me. Another thing is like there were I was, again, I think I was like 20, 21 years old when I was in Iceland. And there was another Icelandic girl, same age as me. And at age of 21, she already had a 2-year-old daughter and she did not get married. And she's not in touch with the daughter's father anymore. And she has another boyfriend. I mean, this is like mind blown. But for them, it's just like so normal because we were in Isaac, right? With this student organization, a lot of university students, and we were doing member recruitment, like I guess just like any student clubs that you have on the campus. They're trying to ask you, oh, do you want to join our student club? Do you want to join our student society? And so we were also doing that in Iceland, trying to ask the students to join Isaac. And then it came to me like some students would come and ask like, what time will be your like activities? I mean, of course, a lot of times it's in the evening because like after everyone gets off no, classes and lectures, and they will be saying like, oh, but I have a son or I have children. I need to go back and attend to them, or I need to take care of them. So if your activities are too late, I can't join. I mean, this is another thing that I never expected because, again, I think coming from Hong Kong or Asia, I guess a lot of times we enter university um, right after high school, right after college. We didn't have work experience. I guess it's very rare that you will already have a family or kids. But in Iceland, a lot of them they rejoined the campus uh, pretty much at any age. There are mid-age, like 20s, 30s, at any age, they would just go back and join as a student on the campus. Since they have free university education by the government, so they can just go back and study anytime they want. So it's not necessary that they would do university right after college, but like there are university students of all age range there. So it's also another like mind blown thing for me is like think about like why I would think that university students must be like at their early 20s. It's not necessary. And why would I think like if you're a single mother, if you are if you're a single parent, then why does it has to be a problem? Coming from I think for coming from Hong Kong, we are often told that like, oh, you need to have both parents for a family, and your parents should be married. I mean, that makes a healthy family. But actually, why, like, what and how you should define what is a healthy family? As long as there's love and care, then like for them in Iceland, it's like that is not a problem if you're a single parent. Uh, it's a problem if you don't have the finances to raise your child. It's a problem you if you don't take care of your children. But if it's only by the status that is a single parent, then it shouldn't be a social problem just because of that. That's like very different, I think, thinking and also life perspective that actually also made me think I think also like deep rooted in me is like to always challenge our own assumptions, because we have a lot of assumptions from our culture, from our nurture environment, from our education. We are being told or we are being in this culture that we are being told what is right and what is wrong. But actually, in the world, there are a lot of things there's no absolute right or wrong. I mean, of course, there are things that you should not harm other people, you should not kill other people. I mean, those things. But there are also a lot of other social status quo that are actually boundaries that we build for ourselves. And when you get out of your own culture, when you go to another country, you will start to see like there could be another type of normal in another part of the world that maybe in our part of the world it feels abnormal. So I think that's one thing that intercultural experiences really amaze me, that I keep wanting more exchanges with people, because I don't want to just learn and read about another culture through the news or through the TV. I want to have real life experience with it. So that's another one thing. Then slightly I go to other parts of my entrepreneurship journey for now. Um, After university, somehow I had a chance to join. At the beginning, I was sharing. I studied engineering. I had a background in engineering, actually, education background. But turns out I joined a public relations company by chance. In there, like I had chances to work with a lot of big brands. Here you see a very young me, and also like brands that I worked with, like during a Samsung Smart TV launch, Samsung Galaxy Nexus global launch in Hong Kong, where we had journalists from all over the world fly into Hong Kong. We had to manage all their receptions, hotel stays, and transport, and also like press release the events, and also for them arrange all these appointment slots for them to try and use the new smartphone and all that. I also had chance to do events for Johnny Walker Blue Label and a premium whiskey brand. And also I had chance to work for Ocean Park, a local theme park in Hong Kong, doing a lot of press and activities. Um, like in the picture here is a Halloween event. when we had all these haunted houses and Halloween. And then my role was really to organize the event and invite the journalists, get the journalists to cover the new products, the new service, the new campaigns, and on the media. So that's somehow I got, by coincidence, joined a PR company and got exposed to all these really interesting events and job duties that I think as young people, as a young person at early 20s, was really exciting to be part of all these like big and mega events. But somehow, after 1 year there, I realized that yes, it's very exciting to be part of all these very grand events, mega events with all these like very important guests, government guests, celebrities all the time. But a part was missing in my heart. It's because like all these brands that I was working with were commercial brands. Um, Working with Samsung, that means we are doing a campaign to get people to buy a new TV, to buy a new phone. We're hoping the campaign will get more consumers to buy the new the whiskey. It's a lot of encouraging commercial consumption, and that part is something that I felt like is not right. That's not what I wanted. I didn't want to tell people just change your smartphone every year. Like your smartphone did not get broken, it still function, and just like, oh, the new one is so cool, so buy a new one. That's not something like I wanted to do. I feel like I didn't want to. If I stay in that job for the next 5, 10 years, maybe I will climb the corporate ladder and becomes those like my supervisors, doing even like bigger, more grand events, handling clients. But that wasn't really what I wanted to do, to keep on doing campaigns, telling people to buy more stuff, telling people to buy unnecessary things, telling people to consume more, which is which was against my own personal values. And I think this personal values was quite built during my university times when I was sharing at the beginning, like all these social projects that I had chance to get involved with, like my experience in India, like my experience in Malaysia. So after 1 year there, I quit and took a bold decision to start my own PR communications company that I will focus on social enterprise and nonprofits companies. Because yes, I felt like I could do very well in my job, as in I could, write all these like press release, find the news angle that you can appeal to the journalists and then get journalists to cover your like story. And I wanted to use that skill set that I gained to help more meaningful organizations, more meaningful projects to get their voice heard, to amplify their social impact, I would say, because there are a lot of good social enterprise and nonprofits there doing really good projects, and just like not many people know about them. So I thought like I wanted to do this fun. I started my own because I wanted to help these organizations. So I started in 2011. By now it's like 12 years by now. So these are some of my client portfolios that work with different like institutions, organizations like international NGOs or local NGOs in Hong Kong and social enterprise. Some of the events that we do, a lot of time we need to use a lot of innovation and creativity, because like doing good doesn't mean the media would like to cover it. It's hard because like when you open newspaper news, um, you don't usually see like, oh, there are people visiting the elderly home, so very meaningful. Like you don't get news coverage for those. A lot of times the media, they like to cover like negative things, change, controversial things. Like it's not easy. So we had to use a lot of brain juice to be creative and innovative, so that we can get like the good messages like being like transmitted in the media. So these are some of the activities we did. Like the top left one is like a fair trade football match. There's a story behind that. Fair trade, I suppose a lot of you may probably have heard of it, where like when when the trade in our under capitalism has become very pretty much unfair, because businessmen, they want to maximize their profits, then they will try to lower the cost from the producers or farmers and maximize their retail price so they can get the best like profit, right? And there are so many layers in the trade supply chain. And so then the farmers and producers from the very, very beginning, they get very, very little portion. For example, I think more popular, like common products that you probably have heard of are like fair trade chocolates, fair trade coffee, fair trade, what else? I think chocolates and coffee are probably more like well known, that you will find on the packaging. That you also find this like fair trade logo. So where they will give like a fair uh a portion of money to the farmers or producers. And I often think that it is quite ironic that you have to talk about fair trade. That means most of the other trades are unfair. And so we live in a pretty much unfair world, because like even for us as consumers, we need to buy all these necessities at the supermarket every day, and probably most of the products that we buy are actually being unfair to the producers who produce the product for us. It's a lot of money just goes into the businessman in between. So coming back to the event that we did, the fair trade football match was because at that time we find out there is this fair trade football. I guess like a lot of you know football. A lot of times like there are more likely the footballs we buy are machine made, but actually the best quality footballs are handmade. And so you can imagine all these like World Cup, all these like A grade football matches, championships, they use the best footballs. The balls are handmade and hand stitched by all these like women. I am not sure if I remember wrong. Should be from Pakistan or Sri Lanka. Like there are like women who will be hand stitching all these like footballs, and they are not being paid fairly. You can imagine all these like best of the best footballs being used in all these like grand like football matches, and actually the producers who produce the balls are not being paid. And we were trying to get the message out, so we thought like we will organize a charity fair trade football match. We invited like companies to send in their corporate teams to join the match, and so we could tell people like how, so we could share like how this the fair trade message through the ball. And with this idea, one hand we got like corporate to send teams and they were making donations so we could raise funds. Another thing is like we were inviting all these like football celebrities in Hong Kong to join. So it was like going into a different spectrum, because a lot of times before this, who would think about food fair trade is usually in the supermarket. You're trying to look at the product labels. Okay, this is fair trade, this is not. So a lot of times it's like all these like housewives you're targeting. And then this time we had a football match, we managed to get the message across like to all these like guys to get aware of the message. Another event we did is a fair trade festival that we did every year. The top right picture is like in a shopping mall. That one is more like a fair trade market, fair trade fair, that like people will come and like buy products and that kind of event in a shopping mall. And then the two bottom pictures were we were doing concerts. Both pictures we were doing concerts, raising funds for like blind people. So we were doing like concert in the dark. Not sure if you heard of Dialogue in the Dark. I think they are also in KL, maybe not so big anymore. Where you will be, no matter you open your eyes or close your eyes, it's complete darkness. You can't see anything. No matter how hard you try to open your eyes, and you still see nothing. You still see pitch black. That's the experience they have to imitate how a blind person's life is like, and how you will be moving around in their exhibition. And then we were also doing this like concert that when we are so used to watching a concert, we also watch the stage effects, the dancers and the lighting and the fireworks, how much you actually can care about the voice. Actually, the voice of the singer and the music by the band should be the most pure form of music that you are enjoying. But we are often taking concerts as entertainment already, that we're like enjoying the whole stage effect and performance and all these like screen and all these different effects, light effects and so on. So having a concert in the dark, not only that we raise awareness for people with visual impaired, but also like to get people back to the basic of music, because we don't use our eyes, we only use our ears to enjoy music. So that's another like event that we did. And we got a lot of like artists, like singers to join. And the singers, even for the singers, they were like, wow, it feels like, because they didn't have to care about how the audience would see them, how the audience would see how they look, what outfit they are wearing, how they dance or how they move on the stage, but really just focus on their voice. So even the singers were sharing with us like, it feels like you are just singing in your toilet. It's like when you're bathing, taking a shower, and you're singing. It's like you're just singing to the space, enjoying yourself. You don't have to worry about what kind of costume you're wearing. So that's like another event. Some of the events like that we did after I founded my own PR company focused on like social sector. So these are also some other media that covered my story as entrepreneur. And then entrepreneurship is addictive. I started that PR business. I've been doing it till now like 12 years, but I think around the 7th or 8th years, I started to feel like there are more projects that I want to do. And there was something lacking in me at that time. As much as I enjoyed all these like delivering social impact projects and had a lot of meaningful projects, but my clients, so all the NGOs and social enterprises I served, they were based in Hong Kong. and the audience that they want to target, like their customer or their like mass that they want to target, were also based in Hong Kong. So I kind of feel like I was like a bit like stuck, uh, because like inside my heart there's another me that I really like, have a passion for travel. So I have a passion for social impact. I also have a passion for travel. So that's how like I was traveling a lot when I was in university. But after starting my own business, which is quite location based in Hong Kong, I couldn't travel so much anymore. And so I was really thinking, like, how can I allow myself to travel more, but like not travel and then spending all my money? So I started to think about, what about I make travel a business, a social business? I was sharing that at the beginning that I really enjoyed all these like intercultural experiences that I had. I think they are very valuable to get to understand like another culture and other parts of the world, and that you can reflect on your own way of life as well. So uh, back in Isaac times, we were sending students to stay in another country to do like exchanges, right? Well, now that I can't just go, oh, let's do exchanges, like not like students. I was thinking, how can I allow adults to like matured adults, people who are working adults, to also get to expose and have these like intercultural experiences, because a lot of times when you make money, when you start working, you make money, people go travel, right? They go to enjoy all these hot springs, five-star hotels, luxury, Michelin star restaurants, a spa, massage resort, villa, and all these like really enjoyment type of tourism. But I feel like um, traveling should not be uh, about consumerism. Traveling should be, you go to another place not to eat everything they have and buy everything they have, but it should be about getting understanding about the local culture. That will be something that will be so valuable that no one can take away from you, and that will be something of a personal growth. And that's how I started to have this idea of starting my second business, Living Experience, where I create like authentic cultural living experience for travelers. Because I think like you don't have to build the tallest building of the world or the biggest water park in the world for travelers. Like you actually just need to allow travelers to experience your way of life. It's like our the different, I feel like a local living experience would be like a travel experience for a traveler. And that's how our travel should be like, uh cultural exchanges, cultural understanding, not just go there and eat everything they have and buy everything they have. So this is how I started with the idea. And also because I have a lot of experience with the social enterprise sector, that I also know social enterprises from other parts of the world. And so that's how I started to incorporate cultural experience and social impact in my tours. Then in 2018, I started this new business. Uh, had two destinations. One is in Taitung, eastern part of Taiwan. We had indigenous experiences there, where we go farming and ecological sites, and I really get to live and work with the locals there, and allow our guests, our tour guests, to also try like the kind of like village experience in Taiwan. And another one that we did is in Tibetan region in Qinghai Yushu in China, where we have like cultural and nomadic experience for our guests to also get to live with the nomads in the tents, get to try out get to try to live a day like a nomad, like a nomadic people. As since they herd yaks, so we will be milking the yaks and then picking the yak dongs and then trying to cook on the grassland without electricity or water. I mean, like, you there is river water, but not like you can just open the tap with water. So like, get to have like experience. For us, it's like a 1 day experience. For them, it's their everyday life. So this is the kind of tours that I started. And then, as we all know, 2020, COVID hits. So I started this travel business for like 2 years, and then COVID hit. And while thinking that what can we do, uh, then I started to get into another very different field, is the arts. So there was like one of the partners in Tibet that I worked with, is a Tibetan tanka artist. So he does like Cloisonne tanka. And so then during COVID, since I couldn't bring travelers to Tibetan region, so I started to take his art to Hong Kong and also to other parts of the world now. So this is another not this kind of like my third startup business, but it's not really this time, not really from what deep down in my heart I wanted to do, but more like shaped by circumstances because of COVID when everything was stopped. Not sure if you heard that Hong Kong and I think China, we are one of the last ones to reopen. We are pretty much the last ones to reopen after COVID, like 3 whole years of lockdown. So during these 3 years of lockdown, like really not much could be done. So I was just like bringing new this like Tibetan art to Hong Kong, and also like really is like taking the time to unleash my own artistic potential that I did not realize that I have. And I think a lot of things that helped is really staying hopeful and resilient. I mean, life was hard. I mean, we didn't know how much longer we had to wait for this COVID to be over. And instead of just sitting there and do nothing and wait for COVID to go away, we had to be creative, to think about like with the resources we have, what can we do? And it really so for me it was really the time to take the time to explore another fields that would be possible to develop. So here's like almost the end of my sharing. What's the next adventure? This is a question that I don't have an answer to, and I always ask myself because I change a lot in my path, and I usually share with students like you all here. I know that there is this stress or this big question mark on what to do with my life, what career I will start, like how and where to start my career. And I think yes, you need to have a life goal and a direction, but never afraid of change, because like life would unfold in the next 20, 30, 40 years that we will be working. I believe that you are in your 20s right now. Assume that we will work until we're 60s. There are a lot of years that we will be working. And in the world nowadays, there's no just one straight road. Like maybe in the old days, you hear a lot of like older people, they work in the same job or the same company for their entire life. But I think nowadays there are a lot of possibilities and changes. of course, you are welcome to choose your life passion that you would like to serve for the rest of your life, which is perfect. But then there are also like a lot of possibilities that there can be other changes in life, just as long as we embrace these changes and be always equipped and be prepared to for the next adventure of life. So for me, I don't know what's my next adventure because a lot happened in these past 10 plus years. I already started 3 professions. I don't know what else I will be doing in the next 5, 10, 20 years, which I actually be really look forward to because I think uh, like at the beginning I shared, I had education in engineering and I did not get a career in engineering field. I had a career in PR marketing. I got myself into traveling tourism. I got myself into the art field right now. Uh, and I think like there are still a lot of possibilities later on. So the last slide to share is I think life is like a roller coaster. There are ups and downs. It's not always smooth. There are always changes. We just have to enjoy and embrace it. So thank you. That's the end. And I hope that's okay. Is there more that you can ask questions?
Thank you
Oh,
so much. Wait, you're done?
yeah.
Debbie, sorry, I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
cut you.
Yeah, I'm also thinking like if there's anything that you may want me to cover.
Oh, I want to thank Debbie for that session. It was a 1 hour of like recall. Is this story being shared with me before? I do learn new things from you today. So, guys, the whole point why I'm bringing Debbie in is the concept of global citizenship. The notion that the world is big out there. There's different cultures, different societies, different ways of doing things, different ways of looking at things, and this is how Debbie learned about the world through initially student activity programs, but eventually she decided to do a number of things that for me probably something that I never get to do because I don't have that courage to do. Because if you notice, ladies and gentlemen, the entrepreneurial activities that Debbie is doing, as well as the different pursuits that Debbie is handling, is along humanity. One point that you mentioned just now is why do we have to get people to consume a lot? In the case of your story, Samsung phone change every year when there are bigger and better things in life to experience. So this is something for everyone to think about. My class is there's 43 of you. Only 3 of you are locals, if I remember it correctly. So for the 40 that is already here in Malaysia, what are you doing to explore local cultures? What are you doing to share your culture, your experiences from China with local students? So this is point for you to think about. Now I'm opening the floor up to you for Q&A. If you have any questions, please switch on your mic and ask away. You may also type in your questions in the Q&A session. Okay, Tong, can you come in and what would you like to ask? Because I see you typing on Voca. Tong, would you like to ask your question?
I'm coming. Okay.
Okay.
So based on the our assignment that Dr. Dory asked us to find the 3 words, keywords of every you presentation. So I only find 2 words, but I find another 3 words by myself. The 2 words I found from your presentation is fair trade and social enterprises. I think these 2 are very important for us in this VUCA times. So the other three words I just think of myself is VUCA. I have said the voluntary, uncertainty, complexible, and ambiguity. That's the time that we face now. And also one opinion that from I'm from China, mainland. From our president, she is community with a shared future for mankind, and also a word that is social global expect digital normal. So my question is, what's your opinion of these words, or you can just choose one or two to share your opinion of this relationship.
I don't quite get your question.
Just like that, it's easier that in this VUCA time that our world is voluntarily, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So how can we make the social enterprise to face with this kind of time?
How do you
Well,
okay, let me translate
Yeah.
Sutong's question. I think what Sutong is trying to ask is that the world is uncertain. There's a lot of things
Yeah.
happening around the world. And your enterprise, Debbie, is the kind that is quite difficult to make money. Sutong, is that what you're trying to ask? So Debbie, how
Yes.
do you adjust your business so that it still contributes to your bank account, but at the same time doing good for the humankind? So hopefully that is the question.
Thank you,
Sutong?
doctor.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's what I want to say.
right. That's why I think it's really always being creative and innovative. Like I was sharing, like COVID. So I was doing like PR business. I do a lot of events, right? And during COVID, with the lockdown, I mean, even restaurants are like you can't even dine in restaurants. How can you have events? So like my PR business was pretty much like slow down so much, like drop like 90% during COVID. And travel business is complete zero, of course. So that's why during COVID I started to do the art because like people cannot go out. But I mean like people still want to have activities. They still like I mean cinemas were closed, theme parks were closed, you can't bars were closed, like there are a lot of things you can't do. But it was lucky that in Hong Kong you can still go like kind of like educational courses, workshops. They were still open, they were still allowed, and that's why I was doing these art workshops. Of course I did my research, like there was nothing like similar like that in Hong Kong, so I was the first one to bring it in. And I think being resilient and um, following your passion and also like being creative is very important to keep going, and always ask yourself, are you ready to start from zero again? I didn't share this part just now in my presentation, but I had quite a few times of feelings like that is going back to zero during my entrepreneurship journey. When I started, the first in 2011, I was 24 years old. So it was really just out of courage, like nothing to lose. Okay, if I fail, then I go back to find a job or I go back to study masters, whatever. So we were lucky. We started, and it was quite fast. The first 3 months, we already secured like 3 PR clients, like social enterprise, summits, and events. And we already secured some clients and projects to work on. So we had quite a, I would say, beginner's luck. So we had some luck for the first year, and then I think quite by the third year, I actually, when I started, I co-founded with a friend, another friend from Isaac, who was in the PR profession as well. So we both were thinking like, oh, we don't want to just promote consumerism. We wanted to do something, promote something good, and then we started together. But after 3 years, we started the company. Just when the company started to go slightly on track just when we started to hire staff, hire a team to do things. Then we had this, we start to realize we have different views on company growth direction and how do we manage our team. And then I actually split with my founding partner, the other founder. So I actually, in reality, I bought his shares. So then I become the sole owner. But it was, of course, difficult because we started the company together. And then like it was very difficult, and we had very difficult conversations and a lot of like bad feelings at that time of like to handle. And actually, after settling this, spending a bunch of money to buy his shares so that I could continue to run the business. And then I think shortly, like 2 years after that, then there's another major thing. My one of the clients decided to not pay for our remaining balance, and I actually end up in a lawsuit with the client. And then there were two other clients like worked with us for like 3-4 years. They were like, it's about time for them to change. Maybe they want to change another company or like another vendor to work with. So I lost two other like recurring clients at the same time in the same year. And then it was a time that like, oh my gosh, like just like losing like three major clients, and then I have a team to feed, and then I have to pay the rents and then everything. Like really had a chance to think about like, I have to work on getting new clients, like how to make my business sustainable. After getting through this, I think another 1 year later, my staff stayed with us for like 2-3 years. My staff also decided to quit. I mean, it's understandable. I mean, young people, of course, you had 2-3 years in one company. You want to go outside and try new stuff, try to work for other companies, try to get more like different work experience. And so it's like the staff that went through these challenges with me, they decided to quit as well. And then I had to hire new staff. And I was really like, just like, okay, I have so many projects, I need staff to help me, then I hire people. And I realized like I did not really screen or like train my staff well, as in for me it's like personal values is more important than skills, because I can train your skills anytime. But then I started to realize there are some values and integrity, honesty issues with my staff, which is a lot more difficult to rectify than just like if they are lacking some skill set. And then I decided in one day to fire. I had 4 staff at that time, and I decided to fire all 4 of them in one day. And then I hire one by one again new staff, so that I can make sure that I will build a right team culture, a right company culture that I want for my business. Every time when there are difficulties like this, I ask myself like, it would be the easiest option is to quit. Easiest way, just quit, close down the company and go back to find a job or do whatever. Like that would be the easiest option. To stay and actually to tackle and resolve all the challenges, that's the most difficult. And every time I ask myself like, am I ready to go back to zero, start from zero again? Because it feels like that. I mean, yes, I did not start from zero because I start from experience. But when you don't have your team, when you don't have your clients, you don't have the money, and then you have to start pretty much like from zero again. That's how I feel. And every time I ask myself, am I ready to do this over again? Even COVID is the same thing. I mean, my mom was asking, just close down your business. don't continue to pay for the rent and everything. Like that's easiest. You can start again after COVID, but like why you bother to continue during COVID? Why you bother to keep finding ways to continue during COVID? Like that's things that I really often ask myself, can I do that? I think it's not only about like if you have the money or not, but also your mental state, because you're back on your own foot and your own hands again. Like during COVID, actually, like my staff resigned and I did not get replacements. So from a team of 5, 6 staff, I'm back to myself again. And for these 3 years, and then now it's like after COVID, right? So now I'm slowly building my team up again. But still, like every time it's like asking, like, are you ready? I mean, like when you have a team, you can just say, hey, someone like help me to do this, or like reply to the client, get this done and get that done. And then like you're like everything by your own again. Even throwing the trash, you have to throw your trash yourself. Everything you have to do it yourself. And every time I ask myself, am I ready to do this?
Thank you, Debbie, for the answer. Hopefully, Sutong, it answers your question.
Yeah.
I have 2 more people inside the chat function who would like to ask questions, but then, now it's 3. But before that, let me quickly come back to what Debbie mentioned in her sharing. She shared that she learned to be agile, to be very resilient, to answer the question, are you ready to start again if things go very wrong? The other reason why I want to bring Debbie into the class is there's one component that I cannot teach, which is how do you manage those with disability. It is something that, yes, I can put it in my syllabus. How do we handle people with disability? And within the context of handling student development activities, we can organize activities for that. We can give you exposure, but nothing is can be done unless you experience it yourself. And I actually experienced it when I was with Debbie. There was one time where we brought Intan and the friend to Legoland. If you guys have already been to Legoland, then I did my own observation how Debbie carried Intan around. The Intan is a girl sitting on a wheelchair bound. So you need to have certain techniques. You have to have skills to do that. And to everyone here, if you want to understand how to manage students with disabilities, the best way to do it is actually to experience it yourself. So, Legion, your question,
I'm
please.
here. Yeah, my question is, hello, Debbie. Nice to meet you. I'm art teacher from China, and I always introduce some Western art from my student. Western culture is different. Our Chinese culture, some oil painting or sculpture is naked, and our student will feel shocked. When they are naked, they can't understand because the culture is unfamiliar. So I want to know how to deal with this situation. When you introduce some unfamiliar culture to your friend or your other people.
Thank you for the question. I think one hand for ourselves is really I think never assume. I mean, yes, we are, or as much as you say never assume, we live with assumptions, because from where we are from, we may not even aware that we have made certain assumptions. So I think that's one thing. And when you say, how do you, I recognize your question is not only cultural shock for yourself, but cultural shock when you are introducing it to your friends. I think that takes a lot of understanding. I think especially like when we talk about it, they are not like aliens. I mean, people from other countries, they are just ordinary people like us. And so why they live like that, why they have art like that, why they will express art in that form. There are always like historical reasons or cultural reasons to that. I think it takes a lot when you experience it yourself, then of course you will have that experience and feelings. But when you have to explain it to your friends, then it takes a lot of patience to explain why they do that. Just even I think in Malaysia, for me it was the first time that when I chose Malaysia, I thought it would be something like similar to like East Asia, and then like there are a lot of Chinese, but still Malaysia is like a Muslim country, and there are a lot of Malays, and there are like Indians as well, and it's not like when we are in Hong Kong or China, those are like minorities, but when you're in Malaysia, it's like they are quite equal portion of like different ethnicities that like, I mean, at least when you go out on the street and you experience it, you don't feel like there are abundance of Chinese or what. It's like quite, I think you have a bit of different ethnicities there that you will need to understand. One example, I think when I was in Malaysia, we were 10 interns of us, and we had interns from, I was the only Chinese, but then there were also like Indians who are vegetarian, and then we have Muslims who eats halal, and then we had we even for religion, I think we had Dutch and Korean who were like Christianity, and then like we had a bit of different things. And then even when as simple as going out to eat with friends, you have to figure out, okay, someone vegetarian, someone needs halal food. So actually for me, I think during my stay in Malaysia, I didn't eat pork at all because I was always with my friends. No pork, no halal food. So I think that kind of understanding is like when you are there, you experience it, you understand it. But when you have to explain to your friends, then like really like find out the reasons and meet behind why they have these like habits, why they have these expressions. I don't know if I answered your question, because I think like handling your own cultural shock is and explaining a different culture to your friends is quite a different thing, because you have to explain all that context. I mean, even for us, when we go and experience like a different culture with the shock, you also try to figure out like, why do I find this different while it is normal for the locals here? It's actually myself is being the foreigner and I am being the weird one because it's so normal for the locals. It's just like weird for me that I have to figure out why I find this weird because of my background, because of their background, why we have a different habit, we have a different way of life.
Yes, thank you. I also want to know, you have an exhibition about the Tanka. So how do you introduce Tanka to people who don't know it?
This is like my
Any
constant
chance
task
for
now.
some unfamiliar culture to these people? Maybe use some, say, familiar context to know the Tanka.
Well, in simpler words, then like Tanka is like because in Tibet, everyone they are Buddhism, they are born into the religion, and then they have all these Tanka are like basically Buddhist paintings where they will have all these Buddha um figure or like Buddha stories that are on a painting. And so for the locals, then they would be doing like all their prayers or their worship, or like is how they will pass on the stories. And for us, I think it can be like an art form, or it can be a way that you can get to understand more about their culture and religion. Or in any sense, like for me, say I'm not a Buddhist, but I am like doing like tanka, promoting tanka art. For me, I think just like as long as you have a respect for the religion, then it's okay. You don't necessarily have to be like believe in it, but like if you have a respect to it, and through the tanka painting, I think it's more like you try to understand why they will paint like this. No matter it's like the choice of the use of colors, the use of materials, or the graphic components that they put there, like there's always a reason. I mean, there are thousands or hundreds years of histories. I often I think that's another thing when I was younger. We used to always think like, oh, this is not a good. You look at some older generations or the government or whatever, you think like, oh, this is not a good practice. You should do it like this and that, and it should be better, right? You want to change everything and improve them. But sometimes I was told at that time that before we want to change something, we should understand and learn why those practices are there from the first place. I mean, they were probably, let's try to assume they were not stupid people to put in stupid process. There are probably a reason why certain things in the society they function in that way for the past decades or hundreds of years. Maybe we don't find it the best right now, but first, before we want to change it, let's understand why they were there, why they had something like that, like at that time. And you will appreciate it by like I think how people did in the past.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Two final questions because it's I'm looking at the time. It's 3:54. We have taken 1.5 hours of Debbie's time already. Next, Ganyin, can you come in?
Yes, doctor.
Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
Hello, Debbie. I want to ask what action do you believe individuals who with the general background, like they don't have such rich experience in the travel or global experience, how they take the global citizenship into their daily lives? Like how do they believe this citizenship can help them in their daily life?
So you're talking about people who don't travel and how they can have global citizenship. This is quite tough because I think one thing is about your curiosity. I think once you start travel, because you get that cultural shock and you get the bombardment of like why people live differently from how I think life should be, and then like you will start to develop that curiosity and to understand how different uh, cultures be like. But when we are very comfortable in our comfort zone, in your own culture, in your own world, you don't see, it's often that people don't see a need of why do I need to understand how people in Pakistan live like? Why do I have to understand how people in Germany lives like why do I bother? It's quite hard for I think people who never exposed to it to even bother because they are so comfortable with their own life in their own way of life, and it's very easy that they will just make judgment. Let's say they read international news or whatever happens in the rest of the world, then maybe they would just take their own judgment and judge people. And I think that's how a lot of misunderstandings raise from there because like we lack of understanding about other cultures and their background and their history. um, and then we lack of understanding and we already made a judgment, and that's how a lot of misunderstandings and conflicts in the world happens like that. So that's why I think going to to try other cultures is important. Of course, I understand not everyone have the luxury and the finances or the time to really travel a lot. But sometimes it takes also like even in our daily life, if we can just be empathetic, that we can try to step into others people's shoes, because like a lot of times we are also comfortable in our own circle of friends or our own circle in the society. There are, maybe it's easy for us to just look upon like, oh, I want to look at the richer people's life. And then you try to see, oh, I want to live like the rich people. But it's also like, if you look at also like people who are less fortunate than us, and how you step into their shoes, like because they don't have so much, they are not as fortunate as us in resources, does not mean we should look down upon on them. They still deserve our respect. Not like, oh, then you donate money to them and help them, not like that. But if you can take them equal as a friend, that's also how you start to understand like there are, because even within the same country there are different ways of life. I think that was a point that Doria was sharing about disabilities, because like if we only take disabled people as disabled, then you will always think yourself is better than them. But you're actually not. Maybe they are challenged in certain ways. Maybe they can't see, but maybe they're blind, they can't see, but maybe they're a lot more sensitive in their hearing or in their touch that that we don't have. Let's say if there's electricity cut, when there's no light, then maybe we are like dumbed. We don't know where to go. We don't know, like we can only rely on a torch because we don't have that sense. Our senses are not that sensitive enough to feel our surroundings. But a blind people will be not a problem. That was a story actually from, I think, Dialogue in the Dark. I think it happens was like there was a fire in the building, and so the electricity was cut, and it's all dark. And it was actually the blind person was taking a sighted person to escape the fire, because the sighted person, because it's all dark, the sighted person cannot see and they could not find a way out. But the blind people actually could move around and know the building to actually get out, evacuated from the building. So there are times that like when we always see someone else is being disabled because of obviously disabilities they have, but actually like then we easily would like have this impression of like look down upon on them, thinking they are less able than us. But actually like if we can shift our mentality, thinking like to think about, to appreciate them and take them as normal, as equal with us, as a friend, then you'll realize that you can appreciate their talents as well. And I think that's the part that also with different cultures, because it's so easy to judge. It's so easy to judge that you're weird because you don't live or act or behave like the same way that I expect people to be. Then I label you as weird, strange, bad, no manners. But actually, like there are, I think as easy as let's say even with eating, um we always eat with chopsticks in Chinese. And then like when you look at Malay or Indians, they eat with their hands. Maybe easily you would think like, oh, that's like, oh, you don't use utensils. But I'm not sure if you actually tried, those who are in Malaysia right now. Did you ever try eating with your hand? Can you eat everything off your plate so clean with just like those few fingers instead of getting messy everywhere? I mean, that's also like a talent that we don't have because we're not used to it. And then we only think like, oh, then like, oh, it's like, oh, you get your hands dirty when you eat with your hands. But then actually, like, when you even try, then you realize like you can't even do that. So I think like there are, even in other with different like cultures, it's like as long as you have a respect and curiosity to understand and to learn and to try, because there's no right or wrong. It's like, is it always right because you eat with chopsticks, or is it always right because you eat with a fork and knife? Like there are so many different ways of living our life.
Thank you, Debbie, for saying
thank you.
that. Ganyin, hopefully that will help you to think about your research. It's not
Sure.
very fair for for Ganyin to ask that question because she's my supervisee for a research
Yeah.
project. So that question is something to do with her research. So final question. We're taking a lot of Debbie's time. Flora, are you here? Liu Jing? Yep.
Doctor, can you hear me?
Yes, you can. I can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello, Doctor and Debbie. Thanks for your sharing. I truly learned a lot from your experience, such as you always full of passion and you meet some troubles or barriers, you can start from zero. I believe you have many important qualities such as the confidence, courage, or perseverance. So, could you share with us how do you cultivate these qualities in your experience, explore your process? Thank you.
Well, that's a difficult one because sometimes I feel like as much as universities are now encouraging entrepreneurship or like there are a lot of entrepreneurship courses, sometimes I feel like it's more like a character than skills to be taught. Because I think one thing about like entrepreneurship is you will make it happen no matter what. You will find your ways. Whether you have the knowledge, then you execute it on your own. You don't have the knowledge, you go and learn it. Or you find someone who have the knowledge to help you to work together. Or you find the resources. I think is entrepreneurship is more like you have the passion and you have the drive, then you will find the ways because we can't know everything. We can't have all the knowledge that we need. We will always be lacking something. So it's more like you will need to find the help, no matter it's a self-help that you equip yourself to learn it, or you find help outside from your friends or from professionals. Maybe if you have resources, you can pay for someone to help you. But when you don't have so much, I mean, we can't be always be sufficient with resources. There's always a limited budget or limited time. Then, like, how do you prioritize the important and urgent stuff that you do first, and how do you find suitable level of help for yourself? There's one thing I think when I started the first or second year, there was another I think Isaac alumni who are like I think another 10 or 8 years older, and he already started his own advertising company. And one thing he was sharing is that you don't have to think about that once you start a company, you need to have a website. Why bother have a website when you don't even have a business, when you don't have your clients? The first most important is how you get your clients, how you get your customers. Well, if you need a website to get customers, then yes, of course, but not every business actually rely on the website to get customers. Nowadays, you have Instagram shops and all these e-commerce and all these platforms. You may not even need a grand and fancy website. It's not like you don't have to think about a website as an identity card because I have a business, I need to have one. It's not necessary like that. So I think entrepreneurship is really like you need to have your own passion and drive that you will be ready to get through all kinds of difficulties, because there will certainly be difficulties and more difficulties than you have ever imagined, and you need to get through it. And also there's always limited time and limited budget. There's only as much you can do. You can have a grand plan doing 100 things, but turns out if you can accomplish 10 of those 100 in your list, already bravo, because like there are only that limited time and resources we have that we need to prioritize. And when you say how you cultivate, I think it's a lot of constant encouragement for yourself to believe in yourself, because there are so many. I was sharing, like, it's a lot easier to quit than to continue, because there always self-doubt. Can I do it? It's so difficult right now. Like, can I really get through this? How can I get through this? Like, you need a lot of constant encouragement and belief in yourself. But after all that, I really think, like, it's when your passion is strong enough, you will be able to get through all those. So I also think about, like, what is your drive for starting your own business or starting your own project. I think your intention is very important. It's your intention is about, I need to make as much money as possible. Then you know how you then that will be the principle of how you make decisions, because then you will cut off those actions that don't bring you as much revenue. You will just focus on actions that will bring you more revenue, more income. So it's really about what is your passion. Say for me, because my passion is on social impact and intercultural experience, so I always focus on this. So let's say, actually, I think just 2 weeks ago, there was a friend wanted to introduce me a client, and I turned down right away. That client is Mercedes-Benz. And for me, it's like, wow, isn't it like exciting for a lot of people? Mercedes-Benz and fancy cars, and you do their PR, like, and you'll be making a lot of money and fancy and all that. For me, it's like two reasons. One is like, I don't want to encourage consumption of luxury cars. And second, I know my own, like, strength. My strength is not on that. My strength, like, I focus on, like, social enterprise, nonprofits, like, and then that turns out, actually, my friend was like doing the communication. It's like, okay, maybe in future when they have a charity events and they can find me, but not doing their day-to-day business, like promotion. That would not be my strength, and also not my passion being. But if one day they want to do some charitable events, to use their resources to help certain community in the society, that's something I can contribute into. So I think once you really being very clear about your passion and your guiding principles, because there will be so many temptations out there, you really need to hold on to your principles. How you only have this much time in our life, so how will you allocate your time to do things that truly align with your passion?
Thank you.
Okay, hopefully, Flora, your question is answered.
Yes, another note from David's passion and courage. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I want to close down Debbie's session for today. Debbie, thank you so much for coming and abusing our friendship by bringing you in. But then I think my students learn a lot from you, more than probably what I teach everyone in the class. So any last words, Debbie, before I proceed to my next class session?
No, thank you. Thank you for hearing my sharing. And feel free to stay in touch. If there's anything that you want to ask in future, or something to learn more, like, you can share my email with them.
Okay, then
Yeah.
I'll give the email to everyone later in the session. So thank you so much, Debbie. We will now proceed to the next session. So if you want to leave, feel free to leave. But virtual hug to you. So thank you so much for coming to my
Thank
class.
you. So
Bye,
I'll
guys.
leave now.
Bye. Sorry. Bye to Debbie. Not to the rest.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, guys. For our next session, Okay, Debbie has left the session. Let me stop recording.